Wait for Laura. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, no problem. Good. I now call the March 16th, 2022 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Item 3, public comment, public hearing, public comment. Members of the public desiring to submit written comments to be read during the public comment or public hearing portions of the meeting will be allowed to submit their comments to the office of the city secretary. Written emailed comments must be received by 3 p.m. Wednesday, March 16th, 2022. I know we received one comment, but they chose not to want to be heard. Any other comments that we received?
No, sir.
Okay. No other comments. We'll continue moving forward to item 4, the minutes. Consideration of an action on the minutes of the December 15th, 2021 meeting. I know it's been a little while. Does anyone have any corrections? Okay. Not hearing any. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as written? Okay. We have a motion from Ms. Lindsay. Is there a second? I have a motion from Mr. James, a second from Mr. James. So a motion and a second. We'll be voting electronically. We will be voting electronically. Although, I like everybody, I didn't get one on my screen to vote. I didn't get the box to pop up. I'll be a 4. I guess everybody else did. So we have 5 affirmative votes. So the minutes are approved. Continue moving forward to item 5, public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed special exception to the front, rear, and street side yard setback for 30 Lenny Boulevard, Lot 6, Block 6, Sweetwater, Section 2, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. Ms. Waller, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
It's been a while since you guys have seen me.
Has been.
There we go. Okay, so before you this evening is a new home that is proposed to be in Sweetwater Section 2. It has R1R zoning, which requires 30 in the front, 30 in the rear, and 20 on the street side. It was originally platted in 1983, and it was annexed in 1997 with the rest of the First Colony MUDs. And again, they are requesting a special exception to the front, rear, and street side. So the only remaining would be the 5-foot interior build line. That would stay. So the recorded plat and HOA restrictions establish a 25-foot front yard setback. The plat also established a 10-foot rear and 15-foot street side setbacks. However, R1R zoning, as I mentioned, requires 30 feet in front and back and 20 feet on the street side. The lot was never built. It has remained vacant since this property was originally developed in the early 80s, 1983, 1984. We believe it was due to the size constraints because of the large number of setbacks. The proposed new home will align with the platted restrictions, including those for 2-story development, and the garage will face the rear rather than the street side, so it does comply with that setback as well. So the special exception would relieve that 30-foot front and rear setback and the 20-foot side setback per zoning, which would allow the home to be constructed as proposed, which meets the recorded restrictions. So here is a site plan. North is approximately to the left side of the screen. In the front here is Lenny Boulevard, and then this is the oval, which is the street side. And then there is a small one-way access drive down the back to provide access to garages at the rear of the homes on this development. There are some extra build lines that this home does not meet because they do not apply. So for instance, here is the build line for 2-story development. So if the home was 2-story at the very start of the building, it would have to comply with this setback. This is a 25-foot build line for if the garage is detached. This is a 30-foot for if the garage faces the front. So there are quite a few extra setbacks for depending the way the garage is oriented or built in conjunction with the house. And again, you can see here the 25-foot front yard, 15-foot side, and then 10-foot rear, which is what the home would like to comply with. Here are the front and rear elevations. So here from the front, you can see this is not a full 2-story house until quite a ways into the home. So therefore it does meet that 2-story street side setback. And then at the rear, you can see the garage faces the rear and is fully attached to that house. And then again, from the side, you can see the fully attached garage. There's some architectural detailing on the street side. And then this is the interior build line side. That would not have any special exception for it. Here's a Google excerpt that shows what the lot looks like compared to those houses around it. So again, it is a vacant lot. It's not a home to be torn down. It just was never developed. This does appear to be architecturally compatible with the neighborhood. About 7 homes nearby don't appear to meet the front or rear setback of 30 feet, and 5 don't appear to meet that street side setback. There are 8 approved similar special exceptions as well in the nearby vicinity. This does meet the first 3 standard criteria. It was platted before it was annexed. The recorded restrictions are less restrictive than zoning, and the special exception would follow the recorded restrictions that are not less restrictive. As to the 4th criteria, staff does not believe there is any issue with public welfare. Public hearing requirements were all met. Notification was posted in the newspaper and online, as well as mailers sent out, and a courtesy sign was posted at the lot. The HOA was notified as well. An online form was available to provide comments in advance of the meeting. We did receive 3 of those forms. One of them was a general inquiry. One of them was a statement from the applicant, and then the other one was an opposed comment. That is what you'll see at the dais. That was sent in after the staff report was compiled, so I wanted to make sure you guys had a copy of that. Since the time of writing that report, we did get this comment from the nearest neighbor. So I'll go back to the satellite image so you can see which neighbor it is. It's this neighbor right here. So it is the one who shares the entire lot property line. He believes that this property should have to comply with zoning because his house has to meet a 35-foot setback. Staff did dig into this a little bit. I pulled up the HOA recorded restrictions, looked more closely at this, and it turns out that for Sweetwater Section 2, every single lot has its own prescribed setbacks, and they do vary quite a bit. For instance, along Linney Boulevard, lots that are on the corner here and here only have to meet a 25-foot setback per the HOA. The next lot in here and here have to meet a 35-foot front yard setback per the HOA. And these 2 interior lots here have to meet a 40-foot setback in the front yard. This is, I believe, due to the split boulevard and nature of Linney. So they wanted the houses to be fairly equidistant from the edge of the paving, even if, so that would require more distance in the front setback. Staff did send that information to Mr. Day, who made the comment. And he did stand by his opposition, but staff does believe this is in development and it's in accordance with how the property was originally developed. He is also not opposed to the street side or rear yard setback requirements. It was just the front yard that he was concerned with. Therefore, staff still does recommend the new residence be constructed in accordance with the attached site plan and elevations. Happy to take any questions after the close of the public hearing.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate that. Is there anyone present today, Laura, that wants to speak on?
No, there's no applicant.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I guess I do need to, let me open the public hearing. And obviously you said there's no one else that no one gave you notice. Okay. Is there anybody else here in the chamber that would like to speak on this hearing? Okay. Since there's no one here, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll move forward to consideration of an action on a proposed special exception to the front, rear, and street side yard setback for 30 Linney Boulevard, Lot 6, Block 6, Sweetwater Section 2, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. At this time, the board will go through the The criteria, first criteria, the latest recorded plat of the property was approved prior to being annexed into the city. As Laura referenced, the plat was recorded in 1993. The property was annexed into the city of Sugar Land in 1997. We're in agreement with that? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Second criteria, the latest recorded plat or other recorded restriction for the property establishes a setback or other regulation that results in a setback that is less restrictive than the setback required by the City of Sugar Land Development Code, Chapter 2. As we heard, the recorded plat establishes a 10-foot rear yard setback, a 15-foot street side yard setback, and a 25-foot front yard setback for the vacant lot. The R1R district requires a setback of not less than 30 feet for the primary structures for front and rear, and a 20-foot street side yard setback. We're in agreement with the second criteria? Okay, thank you. Third criteria, granting the special exception will not establish a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established by the latest approved plat or other recorded restriction. As Ms. Waller referenced, the recorded plat for 30 Lenny Boulevard in Sweetwater Section 2 established a 25-foot front yard setback, a 10-foot rear yard setback, and a 15-foot street side yard setback. The applicant is not proposing to encroach on the recorded setbacks. The proposal is also in compliance with all deed restrictions and approval from the HOA. And finally, the special exception will not grant a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established on the plat or by recorded restrictions. We're in agreement with this third criteria? Okay. And the fourth criteria, granting the special exception will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the district or neighborhood in which the property is located. At this point, I'll open up for the board. Do we have any questions related to any of the criteria or Ms. Waller's presentation?
I do have a question, and I would be interested in understanding what the setback requirements are. The neighbor has expressed a concern, and what is the basis for his concern in relation to this property? So I
Yes.
just want to be clear on that.
Yes, so his concern, you can see it in the comment letter that you got. And his concern is that his home has a setback of 35 feet and the adjacent has a 30-foot requirement. And he believes that the zoning requirements are inconsistent with the neighborhood and detract from its appearance. And so he wants the home to be positioned further from the property line, more in line with his home, which is 35 feet.
Okay.
And so he wants it to still have to follow the zoning because 30 is closer to 35 than 25. However, in research, staff did find the platted restrictions, and this does meet the platted restrictions. Every lot is a little bit different on that street because of the nature of the road. So, and it is consistent with the mirror lot, which is on the other end,
Okay.
lot 1. It would have to meet the same restrictions as lot 1, which lot 1, that house was built to the platted restrictions. So it also would not meet zoning currently. So that is why this home, we do believe it's in character with the neighborhood.
Okay, thaned you. That's what I needed to understand. Thank you.
Laura, I have a question. So obviously we see special exceptions each time we meet. And I guess in the years I've been on here, I think 100% of those have been with existing houses. You know, we're ruling on.
Well,
No?
not always.
Not always?
So there, you did a completely new house just last year. I was the one who presented it. It was part of 6 cases in 1 month where 5 of them were patio covers and there was one
Right.
new house that kind of slipped in there.
Okay.
We've also done fully residential additions versus the open air patio cover. You've done all of them. It's just not seen as
All right,
often.
I had
because
another
of how many-
birthday, so I'm getting older, so maybe my mind's, so I shouldn't have.
It's just been a
Let me
while.
take away that opening and let me just go to my question. So with a vacant lot, it seems to me, I guess I'm just kind of talking out loud that I guess it goes a little bit against it seems like it goes a little bit against the City of Sugar Land codes from a setback standpoint. Because, I mean, it's one thing with an existing structure that existing structure can't really change itself. But I guess this property is starting from scratch, and so there's no issue with still issuing special exceptions?
Correct,
even
there's
in
no
that
issue.
situation?
So typically, most of the time, you're seeing new construction no matter what. So if the house stayed the way it was, it would meet current restrictions, but the addition is what's violating the current code. In this case, the addition
Correct.
is just the entire
Just
house
okay,
instead
so
of
that's
part
how
of
it's,
the house.
that's how it's being viewed, basically.
Correct. So
Okay.
it's new construction that does not meet zoning code, but does meet restrictions from before it was in the city in order to meet the pattern of development.
As long as it meets
from
the
original
criteria,
neighborhood.
basically, it's still, regardless of if it's existing or new construction, it's still, as long as it meets our criteria, we're focusing on that dynamic.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I guess yeah, no, I follow what you're saying.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I already know the answer to the question, but I guess I just more talking out loud, maybe just more for myself from the standpoint, it's a little different animal in terms of just dealing with a vacant lot. And so in terms of still the ability to go back and fall under the plat as compared to City of Sugar Land requirements is a little bit different.
Just for the record, Doug Schomburg, city planner with our development group. One of the main reasons that council approved the special exception process back around in 06, 07 was actually building new homes in areas that, because we had a number of vacant lots left.
Sure.
In areas that had been annexed in. So it's seen either way as the same thing. You just see more additions rather than new homes, but it's basically to give a property owner the right to build like others had.
Right.
Just basically cut and dried. So
Yeah, it makes
that
sense.
was one of the main things. It wasn't really seen as an addition tool one way or another. It was to be able to say, hey, if you meet the criteria, we will apply those
You're not going to get
regulations.
penalized because it's a new build versus an existing.
Right.
It's going to be
As
applied
long as
across
your
the
lot
board.
was set up at
Yeah,
that time.
correct.
Right. Although one of the safeguards was that compatibility that, of course, Laura spoke of.
Sure.
So that's always going to be there to make sure that something is not too out of character with an area. So that's that safeguard element. So
Okay.
hope that's helpful.
No, definitely. I appreciate that, Doug. Laura, thank you for your comments as well. As we consider the fourth, it's important to note that staff has examined the proposed special exception for three key aspects. The first is public safety review. There does not appear to be any public safety issues or concerns associated with this request. Number two, the proposal and the neighborhood setback comparison. As we learned, the proposed new single-family home appears to be compatible with the neighborhood based on analysis of the surrounding area. There appear to be 7 homes in the area that do not meet the front or rear setbacks of 30 feet. In addition, 5 homes do not appear to meet the street side yard setback requirement of 20 feet. Additionally, there are 8 approved similar special exceptions in the area. And the proposed home is in compliance with the recorded plat and deed restrictions. And then the third key aspect is the proposal in the neighborhood from a general architectural standpoint. The proposed new home appears to be generally architecturally compatible with the residential neighborhood and elevations. And elevations can be included for certainty if we move that way on a motion. So going back to the fourth criteria related to will granting this special exception be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to the property improvements? Anybody have any concerns, issues with that fourth criteria? Okay. All right. Excellent. Any final questions, comments from the board before we take a next step?
I had one quick question
Sure.
for you, Laura. I think that I heard that beyond having the proposed construction be consistent with the recorded plat, it is also consistent with deed restrictions and the HOA declaration. Is that right?
Correct. So that's part of the process is that it has to meet prior recorded restrictions. So those can be the plat or HOA deed restrictions. It can be both, one or the other as well. It just cannot violate any of those restrictions, which this home does not. The HOA actually approved it. I believe the approval letter was part of the staff report that you received.
Yeah. Terrific. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. If no other questions, is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
I move that the special exception to the front, street side, and rear yard setback requirements in the restricted single-family residential R1R district for the property located at 30 Lenny Boulevard, Lot 6, Block 6, Sweetwater, Section 2, be granted with the conditions that the new single-family residence be constructed in accordance with the site plan and elevations attached to the request for the special exception.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so a motion from Ms. Lindsay, a second from Mr. Morden. We will electronically vote. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I got three positive. Mr. James, can I get a yay or a nay from you? Okay, so Mr. James is a yay, Mr. LaRocca is a yay, so the special exception is unanimously passed 5-0. Thank you. Moving forward to public hearing, receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed special exception to the front, street side, and rear yard setback for 102 Terry Street, Lot 5, Block 3, Belknap Subdivision, Section 2, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. Hello, Brittany.
Hello, good evening, commissioners.
Good evening.
Oh, no, you're good. So this property is located in Belknap Subdivision Section 2 in the north side of town and is zoned as R1R. This property was platted in 1950 and incorporated into the city in 1959. So it's actually one of the original neighborhoods of Sugar Land. And the applicant is proposing to demolish the current house and build a new one-story single-family detached house. The recorded plat of this property established a 20-foot front yard build line facing Venice Street, a 15-foot street side yard build line facing Terry Street, and a 5-foot utility easement in the rear yard. However, per R1R zoning, a 30-foot front yard setback is established, a 20-foot street side yard setback, and a 30-foot rear yard setback. The applicant is proposing a home that would be located approximately 20 feet from the front property line, 15 feet from the street side property line, and 5 feet from the rear property line. Currently, the existing home slightly encroaches the 20-foot front yard build line. By granting this special exception, the proposed home would be able to meet all of the platted setbacks. Here is the proposed site plan. This is Venice Street, so this is the front yard with the 20-foot build line setback per platting. And then this is Terry Street with the 15-foot build line. Here are the proposed elevations. And then here's the Google excerpt. When staff conducted a neighborhood analysis, staff has found that overall this proposed house appears to be architecturally compatible with the existing neighborhood. It's important to note that due to the historic nature of this neighborhood, almost all the homes do not meet R1R zoning. Additionally, staff has found that there are 3 approved similar special exceptions in the area. Staff has found that this application meets all of the special exception criteria. First, it was platted prior to being incorporated into the city. The recorded restrictions are also less restrictive than the setbacks established by zoning, and the special exception would not be less restrictive than recorded restrictions. Lastly, staff analyzed whether this proposed home would be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to the surrounding neighborhood. However, staff has found no apparent issues. Per city guidelines, notification has been posted in the local newspaper and on the city's website. Property owners within 200 feet of the property have been notified, and a public hearing sign was posted on the subject property. An online form was made available for anyone who wished to provide comments, and we did receive 2 inquiries by phone and 1 public hearing comment inquiry received and addressed by staff already. Currently, staff is not aware of any opposition to the special exception. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the special exception on the condition that this proposed home is built in accordance with the attached site plan and with the attached elevations. I am open to questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate that. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that desires to speak? Brittany, did you have anybody that contacted you, or is the homeowner here? Okay. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to make you're not required to, just giving you an opportunity if you desired. Okay. I know at times we've sworn them in. Should we go ahead and do that? Do you mind, just in case the questions do arise, can I go ahead and swear you in? If you can step forward, I guess whoever would probably be answering the questions. Just a quick question, if you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth in these proceedings under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Great. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Randall Gay, 3015 Broadmead Drive, Houston.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else here for the public hearing? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll move forward to consideration of an action on a proposed special exception to the front, street side, and rear yard setback for 102 Terry Street, Lot 5, Block 3, Belknap Subdivision, Section 2, in the restricted single-family residential R1R district. At this time, we'll go through the 4 criteria. The first criteria, the latest recorded plat of the property was approved prior to being annexed into the city. As we heard, the plat was recorded in 1950. The property was brought into the city of Sugar Land in 1959 as part of incorporation. We're in agreement with that first criteria. Okay, great, thank you. Second criteria, the latest recorded plat or other recorded restriction for the property establishes a setback or other restriction that results in a setback that is less restrictive than the setback required by the City of Sugar Land Development Code, Chapter 2. As Brittany referenced, the recorded plat established a 20-foot front yard setback facing Venice Street, a 15-foot street side yard setback, and a 5-foot rear yard utility easement. The R1R district requires a setback of not less than 30 feet for primary structures for front and rear, and a 20-foot street side setback. In agreement with that second criteria. Okay, great, thank you. Much better in person when we can all respond. As I look at the screen and looking for people's heads nodding. Third criteria, granting the special exception will not establish a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established by the latest approved plat or other recorded restriction. As we learned, the recorded plat for 102 Terry Street established a 20-foot front yard setback facing Venice Street, a 15-foot street side setback, and a 5-foot utility easement setback adjacent to the rear property line. The applicant is not proposing to encroach on the recorded setbacks, and the special exception will not grant a setback that is less restrictive than the setback established on the plat or by recorded restrictions. We're in agreement with that third criteria? Okay, great. Thank you all. And the final fourth criteria, granting the special exception will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the district or neighborhood in which the property is located. At this time, as we consider this fourth criteria, I will open it up to the board for any questions, comments, clarifications. Okay, I don't have any as well. It's kind of a mirror of what special exception we just did. Any issues with this fourth criteria? Any concern from the board with if we grant this being detrimental to public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the district? Okay, everybody in agreement there, good. All right, so we've gone through the four criteria. It's important to note, the staff has also examined the proposed special exception for three key aspects. The first being a public safety review. There does not appear to be any public safety issues or concerns associated with this request. The second being the proposal and the neighborhood setback comparison. The proposed new single-family home appears to be generally compatible with the neighborhood based on an analysis of the surrounding area. The majority of the homes in the area do not meet the zoning setbacks, and there are three approved similar special exceptions in the area. And finally, the proposed home is in compliance with the recorded plat. And the third key aspect, proposal in the neighborhood from an architectural standpoint. The proposed new home, which is single-story, appears to be generally architecturally compatible with the existing single-family residence and neighborhood, and elevations can be included for certainty if we go that direction with our motion. So we've looked at the four criteria. We've touched on the three key aspects that staff examined. Any final comments, questions, issues from the board? Okay. If not, then is there a motion from the board? Okay, go ahead.
So I move that the special exception to the front, street side, and rear yard setback requirements in the restricted single-family residential R1R district for the property located at 102 Terry Street, Lot 5, Block 3, Belknap Subdivision, Section 2, be granted with the conditions that the new single-family residence be constructed in accordance with the site plan and elevations attached to the request for this special exception.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. James, a second from Ms. Lindsay. We will go ahead and vote. Okay. The motion, special exception is unanimously passed. Thank you, board. Thank you, Brittany. I think that is it for today's meeting. As for, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion? Second? All in favor? We'll go verbal. Aye. All right. At this time, the March 16th, 2022 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Since we have y'all in person, we wanted y'all to go ahead